They discovered shocking secrets about Miriam, Moses' sister, that could change everything. Few knew what truly happened that night, under the pallid moon hovering over the still waters. Miriam stood beside the Nile, her breath a shudder in the chilled air. Beneath the surface, something stirred secrets long buried, waiting for the right moment to rise. She had always been known as the protector, the prophetess. But whispers in the shadows hinted at another side to her story, hidden even from the most devout among them. The elders spoke of her eerie ability to lead. They marveled at how her words pierced through the hearts of the people. Yet, few noticed the trembling in her hands when they praised her. Did she fear the weight of such expectations? As she moved through the thrumming camp, the air crackled with secrets. The Israelites were on the brink of a new destiny, fleeing Egypt's chains. But Miriam's glance caught fragments of unease among the crowd mothers clinging to their children, fathers with furrowed brows. An uncertainty loomed, thick and suffocating. Was her voice truly a beacon of hope, or did it hide a darker truth? In the flickering firelight, she felt an unseen tide pushing her toward an unforgettable moment. When the waters parted, was it a miracle, or was it her whispered words that guided them? Miriam's heart raced as she recalled the fear she felt when it was revealed that the plagues were sent not just as judgment but as a chance for reconciliation. Not just between man and God, but between the past she could never escape and the future she longed to embrace. And so, as dawn broke and the Israelites stepped toward their fate, Miriam stood at the edge. She felt the weight of time pressing on her, the crushing doubt mingling with hope. What if her truths were more terrifying than any nightmare? A chill clutched at her spine. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the first rays of sunlight broke against the horizon, Miriam stood still, her heart a restless sea. The dawn brought forth the events of an uncertain journey, but the weight she carried felt heavier than any physical burden. The cries of the people mingled with the whispers of the past, urging her to confront what she had long buried within. While the Israelites rallied around Moses, filled with emboldened spirits at the thought of freedom from their captors, Miriam turned her gaze back to the water. Deep and dark, the Nile mirrored her own tumultuous thoughts, the surface barely disturbing as it flowed silently. What truths lurked beneath? She felt the familiar pull, a call from the very depths, echoing within her. The stories shared at evening fires, the chants of celebration, all paled against the chilling reminder of her own genesis. Miriam remembered the fleeting visions that had come to her in troubled dreams, mysterious figures dressed in white, ancient words drifting through haze, beckoning her to listen. "You are the bridge," one had whispered, just before she was awash in shadows. What did those words mean? At that moment, a young girl approached, her eyes wide and innocent. "Miriam," she said softly, "will we truly be free?" The question cut through Miriam's brooding. In this child's innocent gaze was the embodiment of the hope she clung to so tightly, yet understood so little. "Yes, sweet one. Hope leads us, does it not?" Miriam replied, her voice steady though her interior trembled. The words felt like an incantation, both reaffirming and distancing her from the truth of her role. For deep down, a flicker of fear caught in her throat, the possibility that perhaps the path to freedom was not just one of deliverance but of revelation, exposing all the hidden layers of her life. As the Israelites began to prepare for their departure, her reverie was broken by a sharp cry from the banks of the Nile. A figure emerged from the water, clad in shimmering fabric that glistened under the sun, a serene presence that cut through the chaos. The crowd hushed, wrapped in awe. Was it a vision, an angel, or perhaps an echo of the divine? The apparition reached out, the air around it heavy with ancient power. Miriam felt a sudden jolt within her. Memories flooded back her voice in the wilderness, the prophecies made amidst the reeds. Could this being be a messenger, urging her to remember her own truth? An unsettling thought crept into her mind. If she was indeed the key to their liberation, what darkness must she confront to fully embrace this role? Her heart raced as shadows danced across the canvas of her thoughts. Was she destined to guide her people, or had her prophetic powers awakened something far more profound? A destiny tangled with deception? The child's innocent question now echoed violently in her mind. What sacrifices lay ahead, and at what cost? As the sun rose higher, spreading warmth and light, Miriam turned back to the crowd, her voice trembling but resolute. The people started to respond to her call, but amidst their fierce determination, she could not shake the feeling that a deeper truth awaited her discovery. What secret truths lay beneath the surface of her soul, waiting to be unearthed? Would she be prepared to face the cost of freedom she sought for her people? As the Israelites gathered, their fervor palpable in the air, Miriam stood apart, surrounded by her thoughts yet strangely untouched by the bustle of their preparations. Moses spoke with boldness, his voice cutting through the murmurs, promising liberation and a land flowing with milk and honey. Miriam watched her brother inspire the hearts of their people, yet a whisper of unease curled within her. She was not merely a sister to this prophet but a vessel of omens still pending. The figure by the Nile faded with the sun's ascension, leaving only echoes in Miriam's mind. Shadows of doubt whispered fears of her own worthiness. She turned from the scene, seeking solitude among the tall reeds. It was here, in the swaying calm of the riverbank, where the air held its breath, that the memories surged unbidden. Nights spent listening to the tales of their forefathers around the fire, slipping into dreams where stars were woven into the fabric of prophecy. Where was her place in this tale? She crushed a handful of sand in her palm, feeling the grains slip through her fingers like the fleeting nature of human desires. With each exhalation, she reflected on her identity not only as a sister, but as a woman with unseen scars and hidden strengths. The weight of expectation bore down heavily upon her. Suddenly, she recalled the words spoken in the presence of the shimmering figure. "You are the bridge." What if this bridge led her not just toward the promise of a new world, but into the heart of the pain her people bore? Was it possible that her unacknowledged fears held the power to alter the course of their journey? A voice broke through her contemplation. An elder, his eyes lined with hardships, approached her with hesitation. "Miriam," he began, his words trembling like the fragile branches around them. "The heaviness in your heart, I see it. You have been chosen to keep our stories alive, to hold our spirits. But beware, the truth you uncover may not be the truth the people expect." Miriam regarded him with a mixture of surprise and concern. "What truths do you speak of?" "The truths of burdened generations, of sins and grievances unseen. The river does not forget, child. It carries the weight of those who came before us. If you are the bridge, be prepared to span not only the waters of freedom but the depths of anger and sorrow." His words resonated, stirring a tempest within her. The link between the Nile and her purpose became clearer yet more confusing. It was not merely about leading. It was about confronting the darkness that would rise to meet them. Would her journey towards leadership force her to walk through the shadows of her lineage? As she stood there, grappling with the significance of what lay ahead, the cries of her people brought her back to the present. They needed her strength, her belief in their collective hope. The sound of footsteps resonated like a drumbeat of Fytha rhythm she felt she should match. Yet something held her back. Miriam closed her eyes and took a deep breath, envisioning the liberating act of crossing the waters. But, before she could step forth confidently, the elder's words echoed in her ears. "The river does not forget." What was it that resided in her heart, unresolved and waiting to rise as waves crashing against the shore? The choices before her transformed into questions, weaving a tapestry of uncertainty for her future. Could she unveil the truths deeply woven into their history, or would the revelations consume her? And if her journey required unveiling those shadows, did that mean she would lose parts of herself in the process? What blessings and burdens awaited her as the chosen bridge? And if faced with the haunting histories of her people, would she have the courage to carry not only their hopes but their sorrows as well? The sun hung low over the encampment as Miriam's thoughts churned ceaselessly, weaving together strands of uncertainty and revelation. The air was thick with the scent of hope and fear, mingling among the people bustling to prepare for the journey. She had come to understand she was not just a sister or a witness, she was an active participant in the story unfolding before her eyes. Yet, each moment she found herself confronted with the gravity of the roles bestowed upon her. Miriam. Another voice interrupted her solitude, warm and rich with familiarity. What clouds hang over your spirit? It was Aaron, her elder brother, drawing her out with his gentle presence. His eyes sparkled with a concern that resonated with Miriam's elusive thoughts. "Do you believe we are ready?" she asked cautiously. "This land of milk and honey, can it be ours? Or are we walking into shadows we do not yet comprehend?" Aaron regarded her thoughtfully, his brow furrowing. "We have waited so long for this promise, how can we falter now? Our faith binds us as tightly as blood." Miriam nodded but felt another stir within her, a sense that there lay deeper layers to the history of their people than even their most devoted celebrations revealed. "Yet as I think of our journey, I am drawn not only to dreams of the future but to the truths in our past, those that call to me, louder than any song." "And what truths are those?" Aaron prompted, a blend of curiosity and caution in his voice, as if he too felt the undercurrents that had risen in the air. "Not mere stories of triumph and survival, but the scars and shadows we carry. We stand on the foundations of the stories of our ancestors, but what of the pain interwoven in those tales? Will we be prepared to face it?" Her heart thudded against her chest with each word, afraid yet compelled to unearth what lay beneath. Every journey carries burdens. We are stronger than we think, and perhaps we can transform those shadows into strength. Aaron reassured her, meeting her gaze unwaveringly. "But to confront such truths wanders close to turmoil. I must keep my heart open to the stories we tell, but also to those we hold silent. There is a lineage of grief and anger that flows like venom through our veins, and though I am a bridge, what if I unravel where my path converges?" Their quiet conversation, wrapped in the sanctity of family and shared history, became a prayer of sorts, a quest for clarity. They contemplated the pressing enormity of leading a people poised on the edge of monumental change, ready to transcend the chains of bondage. "Whatever lies on the other side, it must be met with honesty," Aaron affirmed. "Perhaps our liberation is not merely deliverance from the land of our fathers but a reconciliation with them." Miriam absorbed his words like seeds planted in fertile soil, ready to take root. "Then I will embrace this uncertainty. The truths long buried will rise like the waters of the Nile. We cannot direct its flow, but we can learn from what it carries away and what it brings forth." With a deeper resolve, she felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. Yet still lingered the question that festered at the edge of her mind: what might she discover as she bridged the past and present? Would her revelations beckon healing or unleash chaos? As the sun graced the horizon, casting long shadows across the earth, Miriam knew that their exodus would not just be a physical journey. It would lead them through the sacred and the profane, through the cries of the oppressed and the whispers of their ancestors. What unseen forces would awaken as they ventured forth? And would the discovery of their deeper history fortify their souls or challenge the very foundation of hope they clung to? As night descended upon the encampment, the flickering campfires cast playful shadows against the rugged faces of those who gathered around them. The air crackled not only with warmth but with stories shared and secrets held, all blending into a tapestry of voices, each thread a life touched by the weight of history, destiny, and the promise of tomorrow. Miriam found herself drawn to the fire, its glow embracing her as she listened intently to the murmurs that surrounded her. The stories spoken held a familiar relevance, yet she sensed an undercurrent, a resonance that suggested her own narrative was intertwined within the grand epic unfolding. Each tale bore the weight of struggles long endured, instilling a cautious reverence for the lives that had come before it. As the embers crackled, an elder approached her, his frame stooped but his eyes held a fire that belied his age. "Miriam," he said softly, "the night calls for remembrance, There are truths that seek the light, and some linger too long in the shadows. His presence enveloped her in waves of wisdom, and she felt compelled to listen. "What truths do you speak of, my elder?" she inquired. Sensing that this moment transcended the ordinary, he began, his voice resonating like a drumbeat. "In our past lies a lineage more profound than mere survival. Your blood carries stories that stretch beyond our father's time, the ancestors who bore witness to both anguish and revelation. Among them were women whose voices were silenced, yet whose strength thrummed like the pulse of the earth beneath us." Miriam's heart raced. Could it be that her own journey mirrored those who came before her? "What do they whisper to us?" she urged, eager to uncover the secrets that had been hidden from her, just out of reach. "They whisper of the forgotten ones," he continued. "Those who had dreams and ambitions as fierce as the sun, yet became shadows to their sons and daughters. They speak of a Sistera bearer of wisdom who must remind her people of their identity. Look closely at your reflection, Miriam, for the truth lies in the soil from which you spring." She felt a shiver run through her as the significance of his words struck her heart. The air seemed to still, and the world around her faded, amplifying the voice of a lineage that cradled both struggle and brilliance. "But how can I be that bearer of wisdom when I am still uncovering my own truths?" she questioned, grappling with the magnitude of her perceived role. "By daring to reclaim the stories that have been veiled in silence," the elder insisted. "Your name carries weight. The very stories of your ancestors dwell within you, waiting for recognition. Love and strife are tangled up in every thread of our histories, but it is you who must weave them anew." A sense of urgency surged within Miriam. She envisioned a sisterhood of strength, a web of shared stories that could fortify their people. But what if the uncovering of these truths stirred unrest? What if they faced a pushback from those who clung tightly to their masks of ignorance? As the elder's gaze bored deeply into hers, she realized that embracing her role meant gleaning understanding from the scars left behind. "What if the revelations I seek emerge not as a bomb, but as a storm?" she whispered, grappling with the weight of liberating the tales that lay hidden. The elder smiled, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "Storms can clear the air, revealing skies once veiled in darkness. It is through confrontation that we find clarity. Yet the choice to embrace which path to tread is yours alone." With those words echoing in her mind, Miriam felt a rush of empowerment intermingled with trepidation. The stars blinked above her, each a beacon of potential revelation. She was becoming acutely aware that this journey would demand more than mere physical endurance. It would require a deep-rooted excavation of memories that lay entangled in both light and shadow. As she gazed into the flames, flickers of truth igniting in her heart, a new question began to form within the vast expanse of her consciousness. Could she summon the courage to unearth the voices of the forgotten? And in doing so, would she allow herself to confront the secrets buried deep within her own spirit? Would she become the catalyst for healing or risk unleashing a maelstrom of buried anguish? As the embers continued to glow, Miriam lingered in the elder's words, the weight of their meaning pressing against her chest. The night deepened, filled with secrets cloaked in darkness, and each flicker of flame seemed to illuminate a suppressed truth that beckoned to be unearthed. She felt a sense of impending change swirling in the air around her, both intoxicating and terrifying. The elder's figure faded back into the shadows as others began to drift toward their tents, seeking rest beneath the vast canopy of stars. However, Miriam remained, seated by the fire, lost in thought. As the heat from the flames danced upon her skin, she found herself reflecting on the lineage the elder spoke of. Stories of women whose names had been forgotten, sacrifices made in silence, bloomed vivid in her mind like wildflowers in an untamed field. Some of these women must have carried the knowledge of powerful spells and incantations, the magic of their ancestry pulsating just beneath the surface of her own skin. She considered her grandmother's tales, whispered during long nights and draped in mystery. Could those tales hold keys to understanding not only her past but also her purpose in this tumultuous present? With a heart pounding with curiosity, Miriam raised her eyes to the stars, wondering if the spirit of her ancestors floated among them. Watching, waiting. Suddenly, the rustle of movement caught her attention. Two figures approached, their silhouettes revealed more clearly as they neared the fire. It was Zipporah, Moses' wife, and her brother Aaron, both of whom bore expressions painted with a blend of worry and determination. Their footsteps, once hesitant, now held a sense of purpose as they sat down beside her, the flicker of the flames illuminating their resolved faces. "Have you heard?" Aaron began breathlessly, barely able to mask the urgency in his tone. Moses had a vision. The night he returned from the mountain, he witnessed the heavens open and fire descend. He believes a message has been imparted to him, a calling to lead our people out of bondage. Miriam felt electricity surge through her, a mix of exhilaration and dread. What did he see? She pressed, feeling a profound connection to the unfolding revelation. Had the vision unearthed something that her family had long been waiting for? Zipporah, her voice steady yet laced with concern, continued. He saw a future we cannot imagine, full of promise yet fraught with unknown challenges. The destiny of our people may rest upon a singular moment of courage and commitment. Miriam's heart raced. And what of those stories, the voices that have been silenced? Will they be honored in this future? Can for the sake of those who are forgotten assist in ushering this destiny to reality? The words flew from her lips, fueled by an urgency she had never felt before. A silence fell among them, filled only by the rhythmic crackle of the fire. Finally, Aaron spoke. Moses believes that the strength of each individual story can ignite a greater flame, one that has the power to guide our people through the darkest paths ahead. But it requires a unity that has yet to be woven, a brotherhood and sisterhood that honors every voice. Miriam, it is essential that your light shines with clarity. Your heart knows what our ancestors wished us to remember. The conversation hung heavy in the air. Miriam contemplated the shared fears and hopes as she gazed into the dance of the flames. The path ahead was fraught with peril, and she could feel the storm of her ancestors brewing beneath the surface. The very revelations that could set them free may also tear the fabric of their community apart. The seeds of doubt began to take root in her mind. What if those who had grown comfortable in their ignorance rejected her? What if revealing the truths of the past indeed unleashed an onslaught, shattering the fragile sense of belonging her people had cultivated? As their meeting wound down, Miriam looked up at the stars, each one a glimmer of wisdom, a call to action. New questions began to surface, echoing the elders' warnings. Could she shoulder the legacy of her ancestors without losing herself? Would she be able to reconcile the revelations of the past with the tumult of the present without inciting chaos? And more importantly, could her heart bear the burden of bringing forth those voices, only to face the possibility of being cast aside for the truths they might reveal? She felt poised at the edge of a new journey, understanding that to reclaim their stories would mean she must first confront her own. The stars gazed down like ancient sentinels as Miriam, ever restless, found herself deep in uncertainty. The words spoken around the fire echoed in her mind, the essence of her lineage taking shape before her, both terrifying and thrilling. She felt the weight of their past filled with whispers of resilience, courage, and silent strength, a history begging to be honored and revealed. As dawn approached, Miriam made her way to the edge of their encampment, where the first signs of light streaked across the sky, blending hues of purples and golds. She paused, heart racing, recalling the stories of her ancestors, their courage hidden in the margins of time. Would they guide her now, or would their long-forgotten truths send her spiraling into chaos? The grass beneath her feet was still wet with dew, and as she walked, visions filled her mind. She imagined the strength of the women who had come before her, the midwives who defied royal orders, the mothers who sung lullabies tempered with hope, and the daughters who bore witness to their people's sorrow. Would their strength be her strength? In that stillness, she sensed a presence, a warmth flowing through her, igniting a flicker of understanding. It was as though the voices of her ancestors were intertwining with her own, whispering her name, urging her to embrace her true purpose. Miriam, they seemed to say, you are not just a descendant. You are a conduit for our story. That thought both comforted and terrified her. Was she truly ready to take on such a mantle? Did she have the power to bridge the worlds of the past and present? The enormity of her task returned to her mind, the call to unite her people, and she wondered whether she had lost sight of herself in the midst of it all. With renewed resolve, she envisioned the future that lay ahead, one not yet written but filled with possibilities. She thought of Moses, his newfound vision swirling like a tempest, promising liberation yet demanding a united front against the forces of oppression. The fate of her people held immeasurable potential, resting precariously on the choices they would make as the sun rose higher, painting the world in soft brushstrokes of light. Miriam felt a sudden urge to seek out Moses. She needed to speak with him, to understand his vision more intimately and clarify her role within it. What if his calling required more than merely following his lead? What if, together, they could interweave the forgotten stories of their lineage into the fabric of their journey, an anthem of liberation sung from the voices of the past? With this thought in mind, she turned and made her way back toward the center of the camp, her heart echoing with deep questions. What if her path led her to revelations about herself that were as shocking as they were enlightening? Could she uncover secrets not only about her ancestry but perhaps also about her own spirit? As she approached Moses, intent clear upon her face, she pondered the uncertainty lying ahead. What truths would unravel in their conversation? Would there be resistance to the stories she wished to stitch into their narrative? And most importantly, could she forge the path before them without losing the essence of who she was amidst the collective identity? In the gathering wake, as Moses caught sight of her, she felt the stirrings of destiny. Yet, her heart still trembled with the weight of unanswered questions, each carrying the potential to change everything. Would she discover the echoes of profound and shocking secrets within her very being that would bind her to her people in ways she had yet to understand? Would her journey into the depths of her own identity ultimately illuminate the way toward their shared freedom? As Miriam hurried toward Moses, the soft murmurs of the early morning enveloped her like a comforting blanket. The first rays of sunlight kissed the landscape, casting long shadows that danced across the ground, mirroring the unease whirling within her heart. Would Moses recognize her significance, not just as his sister, but as a vital voice forged in the trials of their ancestry? Moses stood tall, a figure of authority among their kin, his brow furrowed in thought as he considered their path forward. The weight of his mission pressed upon him, and Miriam wondered, could the burden of their shared lineage add more complexity to their calling? Would he welcome her insights or dismiss them in the fervor of his own revelations? Moses, she called, her voice steady but trembling with emotion, as she approached him. I have something to share, a Visiona calling that may challenge the very course you've laid out. He turned, surprise flitting across his features, but his expression quickly softened as he took in her earnest gaze. Sister, your spirit has always been fierce. Speak your heart. Your words are as vital as the air we breathe. A surge of gratitude welled within Miriam as she realized how much she craved the affirmation of her brother. This was not merely a conversation about strategy. It was an intersection of their souls, an opportunity to unveil the legacy that pulsed through them both. Moses, the stories of our people, our mothers, our grandmothers are woven into the very fabric of who we are. They are not just tales of suffering. They are songs of empowerment and strength. They kept the flame of hope alive during the darkest nights. Moses listened, his eyes narrowing slightly as he contemplated each word. I have seen firsthand the suffering of our people. The bonds of slavery remain unbroken, yet I remain steadfast in following the path towards freedom. But tell me, sister, where do these stories fit into the liberation I seek? Encouraged by his curiosity, Miriam pressed on. They fit like threads in a tapestry, dear brother. Together, we can weave our past with the present, using our ancestors' courage as our foundation. Their whispers can guide us, instilling the resolve needed to overcome oppression. Perhaps we can inspire our people by speaking of their strength. They need to remember who they are, who they have been, that they might rise anew. Moses pondered her words, a flicker of something stirring in his deep-set eyes. I have been driven by the call I received at the burning bush, and the fears of our people weighed heavily on me. Yet, I wonder if I have been too focused on leading them forward and have neglected to remind them of the strength behind us. Miriam sensed an opening, her heart swelling with hope. Together we can remind them, Let us gather the voices, the women, the elders. We can share their stories, honoring their sacrifices, honoring the strength that flows within us. It is not enough to dream of freedom. We must ignite their spirits by rekindling the fire of our lineage. We must become a choir of voices rather than a solitary song. At that moment, the early morning silence was punctuated by a sounded, distant, haunting melody, one that floated on the gentle breeze. It was a lullaby, echoing the songs of their mothers long past. It wove through the air, wrapping around them like the arms of an unseen force. They exchanged glances, struck by the uncanny resonance of their purpose. "Miriam," Moses whispered, his voice barely above a breath, "do you feel that? It is as if our ancestors are singing to us, pushing us forward." "Yes," she replied, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "They are entrusting us with their legacy, urging us to carry it into the fight ahead. But what if we discover something more profound about ourselves in the process? Something that could change us at our core?" As the sun continued its ascent, casting shimmering light on the desert sands, Miriam felt an awakening within her soul, a stirring that told her their journey was only just beginning. A question hung in the air, unspoken yet palpable. Would the truths they unearthed together about their lineage, their ancestors, and themselves forge a bond essential for their mission, or would it unravel the very fabric of their understanding and connection? The morning sun climbed steadily, unveiling the vastness of their surroundings and illuminating the path ahead. Yet, beneath the warm rays, attention thickened as Miriam and Moses stood connected in purpose, yet divided by the weight of unspoken truths. It was this fragile stillness that gave rise to a deeper introspection in Miriam as they contemplated the melody still mingling with the air. A foreign thought emerged, what lay hidden within her own spirit? She had danced endlessly between the twilight of admiration for her brother and the shadowy corners of her identity, always yearning to prove herself beyond the role of sister. To carry forth the legacy they spoke of, she needed to understand the threads of her own story. What secrets had been whispered in the stillness of night among their ancestors? "Moses," she began cautiously, her mind racing as she tried to capture the weight of her uncertainty, reflecting on our bloodline. "Can we afford to disregard what lies within? I have sensed it in essence, a strength entwined with the stories. Yet, beyond courage, perhaps we have also inherited burdened secrets that have shaped our family." His brow furrowed, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Miriam paused, her heart pounding as memories flooded her thoughts. Stories she had overheard from the women, hushed conversations filled with a mix of reverence and fear. They spoke of the prophetess, of the lineage blessed with wisdom and foresight. Yet there lay murmurs of fear, of terrible omens woven into their history, echoes of lives disrupted by choice, power, and even betrayal. "Remember the tales told during the evening fires, of how our grandmother once glimpsed the future. They say she bore a curse, intertwined with our tribe's destiny. She was said to possess visions, yet those visions forewarned of trials too heavy to bear, challenges that may arise if her lineage strayed from its righteous path." Moses' expression shifted from intrigue to consternation. "A curse? I have only known of blessings, perhaps," Miriam replied, feeling a deepening pit in her stomach. "But perhaps there lies wisdom in understanding the entirety of our inheritance. If we are to lead our people, we must look to the shadows, acknowledge what we carry within us. The fears and the gifts." As the melody faded into the distance, the silence that followed was deafening. Moses' eyes widened, filled with both fear and determination. "You speak of a legacy laden with both promise and peril. But to confront such a past, Miriam, it may alter the course of our mission. Then we must tread carefully," she urged, a fleeting current of awe coursing through her. "We do not have to face this alone. Let us gather the women of our lineage, those who might recall the fragments of our family's tales. They have the wisdom of ages, perhaps more than we can comprehend. For only by unveiling the truths long obscured can we discern the essence of our own souls." In that moment, Moses felt the gravity of her words, as if the very earth beneath them vibrated with a hidden truth. The sun now cast a golden hue across the expanse, inviting yet ominous, as if beckoning them to step forth into a larger narrative. "Miriam, if we unearth what lies buried, Could it bolster our mission, or might it pull us into chaos, exposing us to the very strife we seek to escape? The winds rustled through the nearby brush, carrying a whisper that spoke of change. The question lingered: was the pursuit of truth worth the risk of unveiling their family's secrets? Would they emerge as the leaders their people needed, or stumble into a maze of misunderstanding and shattered identities? The weight of their past loomed ahead, like the vast desert they must traverse. A new reflection began to form: was the strength they sought in unity worth the possible fractures such truths could bring to their bond? As the camp stirred to life under the brightening sky, Miriam and Moses found themselves anchored in a pivotal moment, a crossroads between legacy and liberation. The air was thick with possibility, yet shadowed by trepidation, each breath a reminder of their intertwined fates. An urgent need to confront their past and the truths buried within whispered insistently in the silence that surrounded them. "Moses," Miriam began, her voice trembling yet rooted in resolve, "if we are to lead our people out of the confines of Egypt, we must also lead them into the depths of their own histories. The songs of freedom can only echo if the voices of our ancestors rise to meet them." "Speak then, sister, of whom we should seek," Moses replied, curiosity sparking in his eyes, framed by the warmth of the rising sun. "You say we must gather those who retain the echoes of our lineage. Shall we call upon the women, the prophets, the witnesses, those who have walked this path before us?" "Yes," Miriam affirmed, her spirit lifted by his understanding. "The sisters in our tribes, the mothers who bore pain and wisdom alike. They hold fragments of strength that we cannot overlook. Together, they can illuminate the journey we're destined to undertake, a journey not just of escaping bondage, but of reclaiming our identity." As their discourse deepened, the camp came alive around them. The sound of laughter intermingled with the rhythmic pounding of feet preparing for the march into the unknown. Each heartbeat seemed to signal an awakening, a powerful current of determination flowing through the crowd. For every pair of hands packing provisions, there were hearts beating with a longing for connection, a desire to break free not just from physical chains but from the deeper shackles of unrecognized sorrow. "Miriam," Moses steadied his voice, "the path we embark upon may unearth wounds that run deep, fissures in our collective memory that may render our mission and the very fabric of our family fragile. Are you prepared for such revelations?" "I am," she replied, conviction coursing through her veins. "For what lies buried, in shadows or in silence, can no longer hold dominion over our destiny. To confront our legacy, both the blessings and the burdens, to reclaim our strength. In essence, we will transform fear into faith, chaos into communion." With each word, she felt the energy shift around them, emboldening others to join in their cause. News spread quickly about gathering the mothers, the sisters, the matriarchs who would share their stories. As the call reverberated through the camp, hope bloomed like wildflowers between the walls of weary hearts, each one an assertion of life clinging to freedom. As the sun climbed higher, painting the world in hues of orange and gold, women began to gather, their faces a blend of weariness and quiet strength. Among them sat grandmothers whose hands had carved tales in the fabric of time, mothers who had cradled dreams for their children in their arms, daughters whose laughter had been silenced by the weight of generations. Each one held a key to a legacy longing to be set free. Miriam felt a stirring within her, a sense of kinship binding them together, a sisterhood fortified by the wisdom of the past. As she stepped forward, her voice rose with the whispers of the ancients. "We gather not just to walk toward freedom, but to reclaim our past. We honor the stories of our ancestors, the pains and triumphs intertwined. For we are the bridge. In our hands lie both the power to remember and the responsibility to transform those memories into strength." One by one, the women began to share, their stories unfolding like petals opening to the sun. The tales echoed through the gathering of sacrifices made for love, battles faced with unwavering courage, and moments stolen by grief. They spoke of ancestors who had long fought to keep hope alive in the dark nights of despair, teachers of resilience who sang lullabies when words failed. Yet, alongside those tales, a shadow emerged, woven into the fabric of their lineage, the curse passed from generation to generation, an ominous weight that both prophesied peril and offered a stark warning. As their narratives unfurled, it became clear, To step into the future without addressing the scars of the past would be to walk blindfolded into uncertain territory. With emotions running high, the elder woman from earlier approached Miriam, her voice steady and compelling, "Child of destiny. Remember, each wound that aches bears the gift of understanding. In the gardens of sorrow, we must plant seeds to bloom anew. Only by confronting that which resides in the shadows can we emerge in the light." Miriam absorbed this truth, feeling both the gravity and the liberation that came with acknowledging her dual role as bearer of their lineage. As tears fell freely among the women, they became intermingled with laughter, a testament to the reconciliation of pain and hope, and as the sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting a golden glow over the assembly, Miriam felt a profound awakening realization that the journey ahead was not one of mere survival but of authentic transformation. As the stories resonated in her heart, Miriam found clarity in the cold embrace of uncertainty. "Moses," she called out, stepping toward her brother, whose face bore the strain of leadership yet also a flicker of newfound understanding. "This path we walk it not alone but together. Let us carry forth our ancestors' sorrows and their victories. Let each story be a pillar upon which we build this new foundation, one of remembrance and hope." Her eyes sparkled with an intensity that mirrored the flames of the gathering fire. Together, they would forge a future that honored the past time to reconcile the knowledge of hardship with a vision for freedom. In that moment, they both understood. Their time had come, not to rewrite history, but to acknowledge its wounds and victories harmonized in a timeless song of liberation. With each woman standing beside them, the spirit of unity ignited like a wildfire, an exhilarating force determined to rise against all odds. The band of sisters and brothers intertwined their destinies, a tapestry woven with threads of strength, vulnerability, and the wisdom of ages as the stars emerged to dance against the darkening sky. A powerful truth echoed through the hearts of the gathered. Freedom resided not just in the act of leaving the chains behind, but in unearthing what had lain dormant, the scars that would shape them into a new future where every voice would be honored, every story woven into the fabric of their journey. And in that moment of realization, Miriam finally understood. The revelation she sought was not merely about confronting her ancestry, but embracing it, allowing it to illuminate the way forward. For the echoes of their past would guide them into the dawn of a new era where every heartbeat throbbed with hope, every step resonated with purpose, and the power of their shared legacy would lead to lasting freedom. Thus, Miriam stood at the foundation of this rebirth, a bridge between worlds, binding the stories of yesterday to the promise of tomorrow, a testament to the sacred transformation that would carry her people into the light.